existing someone's recording. Sorry, so yeah, big focus of that event will be to make the country a leading destination for responsible tourism. And we'll be showcasing new and existing sustainable tourism products. It'll be a 3-day virtual event. So it's an ideal platform to explore new business opportunities and enable connections with up to 300 Scottish exhibitors and global buyers for a combination of pre-scheduled meetings and appointments. Registrations open, I believe tomorrow. We're hoping for today, but obviously there's a few changes with COVID restrictions that shouldn't affect UK visitors too much. So hopefully registration's open tomorrow. So we would encourage you to book your space early to avoid disappointment. As part of being a responsible travel destination, we look at a variety of different heritage sites. We're pleased to be the world's first country to introduce a UNESCO trail, bringing together some of Scotland's most iconic, diverse and culturally significant sites, which was launched just last month in October. Scotland's UNESCO trail connects the country's 13 based UNESCO designations, including World Heritage Sites, biospheres, global geoparks and creative cities to form a dedicated digital trail. Aims to take visitors on a cultural journey across the country, experiencing everything from history to science, music, design, and literature to nature and cityscapes. It's designed specifically to support ambitions to make Scotland a world-leading responsible tourism destination, and it encourages visitors to stay longer, visit all year round, makes the sustainable travel choices, explore more widely and at the right time of year. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how many UNESCO sites are in your programs as well, and you can take a look at the new web page as well and feel inspired with some of those destinations. And then just looking at next year as well, looking ahead to 2022, we've got the Year of Stories. So obviously stories are vital to every part of Scotland. Our stories reflect who we are and shape how others see us. So the Year of Stories will provide Scottish businesses as well as national and international travel trade with opportunities to engage and inspire visitors and clients to discover, celebrate and share their own stories of Scotland. So we have a digital toolkit available which contains more information on this, the key themes, and we also had an industry webinar as well, which was in September, I believe, and there's tips as well on how to get involved in that. I'm sure everyone here has their own kind of story about Scotland that they would like to tell. I'm more than happy again to catch up with people on a one-to-one basis to see how you might be able to use our new themed years as inspiration for new or extended travel programs. So yeah, again, that's what's going on, or a little bit about what's going on at the moment with Visit Scotland. I'm going to hand over to Andrew at CalMac as well, but just a quick note as well, Steve will share these slides as well as other slides during this webinar as well. So yeah, basically my contact details are there. It's very nice to meet everyone, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of conversations going forward as well. And yeah, if you do have any questions, we'll have a Q&A at the end of this as well, or you can reach out to me via my email as well. So I'll pass you over to CalMac. I'll stop sharing my screen as well.
Thank you, Craig. Welcome everybody from a very dreich day in Glasgow. Dreich is a Scots word, which we have wonderful words in Scots. They sometimes describe things very beautifully. Dreich means when it's really grey, wet and miserable, which very often is sadly this time of year. Delighted to be here today. And I'd also like virtually to introduce a colleague of mine whom you will be getting to know in future very well. Stephen Monaghan, I'm delighted to say, has just joined us in the business development marketing team, and he will be responsible, amongst other things, for developing a relationship with the coach tourism sector. He has a background in travel and has worked internally in the contact centre for some years, so it's a great mix of skills of sales as well as understanding all our processes. So I'm going to be very brief today, and Steve, forgive me, could I ask you to put the slides up your side? Sorry about this. And if you go into slide mode, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. So if we can move on to the next slide, Steve, that would be great. There we go. So I know some of you know us quite well, but for those of us that don't, maybe just a little bit of an introduction as to who we are. CalMac Ferries, we operate a fleet of 34 vessels across a network, 30 destinations, serving island and remote mainland communities. We're the largest ferry company, not only in Scotland, but in the rest of the UK in terms of domestic travel. So leaving aside people like DFDS who travel across the channel, for example. In 2019, which is the last year of inverted commas normality, we carried more than 5.6 million passengers, around 1.4 million vehicles. So it's very important as well to understand a little bit about who we are as a company or as an entity. We've actually been in existence in one form or another for more than 160 years, and we're very much more than a ferry company. We are literally the lifeblood of the communities we serve. We're an integral part of who they are. They would literally not survive without us. I think it's always important to remember that our primary objective and our primary duty is to serve those communities. But I think it's also fair to say that as an organisation, we have huge experience as mariners and understanding really the environment we work in. The seas off the west coast of Scotland can be some of the most turbulent in the world, and we have to operate in very challenging circumstances. So I think it's always worth remembering that we're more than just a transport company. We're providing a lifeline link. Could I have the next slide, please? Obviously, as a ferry company, I'll come on in a little bit very briefly about how you can work with us. But I just wanted to share today with you some thoughts as we go hopefully back into some semblance of normality in 2022, maybe some insights and tips for yourselves. I'm very happy to talk in more detail with anybody about all the destinations we serve. We really have ferry links from right in the south of Scotland over to Kintyre, Campbelltown, where we run a summer-only service, right up to Stornoway in the north. So we've got huge diversity. And I think if I look at our coach operator bookings, I know which routes are the popular ones. It's the route over to Skye for obvious reasons, and also to a great extent over to Mull. But I did want to share some insight, especially for those of you maybe from south of the border who aren't quite so familiar with Scotland. Maybe some tips. If, for example, you were basing a tour in Edinburgh or the Central Belt, I would give some examples there of destinations which you can actually do as a day trip. Obviously, we would like to encourage people to stay longer in destinations, but it's perfectly possible to do a day trip combining the island of Bute, going over onto Cowell, which is part of the mainland, but is a peninsula, and then going from there over to Kintyre. And that can be done quite easily in a day, and you get absolutely fantastic scenery, some of the best scenery in Scotland, I would say, and it's within very easy distance of Edinburgh and certainly Glasgow. So I think there's some hidden gems there. I'm more than happy to advise people if they want more ideas or inspiration. And of course, Arran, some of you will be maybe more familiar with. It's known as Scotland in miniature, and it literally has everything. It has the scenery, it has whiskey, it has great food, wonderful history. So very happy to work with you and advise you. Also, we can give you some indications sometimes if you're planning tours about when is the best time to travel, which routes possibly have more capacity. Should point out as well that the routes to Cowell and obviously to Bute and Kintyre are non-bookable. So it's worth remembering that as well. And we can give you a full list of the bookable and non-bookable routes if required. Looking ahead to next year, Visit Scotland talked about the Year of Stories. Apologies, I've been rather pedantic. I realised I said storytelling, but I think now the official title is Year of Stories. We're going to be playing a big part in that. We've already been doing some great work in collaboration with the University of Highlands and Islands to gather stories, which I think is really exciting stuff there, which I think could be very relevant for visitors and will help encourage people to visit and explore new places around those stories. Another big thing that we're very keen to push, especially with yourselves, I know some of you avail yourselves of this already, is our really fantastic food and drink offer that we have on board. I think before the presentations today, somebody had asked in advance, what's it like? Well, I can confidently say it is excellent. We get really, really good feedback from customers. All our, or the vast majority of our food and drink is sourced locally within Scotland. We're very proud of that. Obviously, it means we deliver a very good, high quality service, but also it's important because we're supporting local businesses in the local economy. All food and drink is freshly prepared on board as well. So it is a good experience. It is possible to book direct with us for travel trade or coach operators wishing to book. They can do that direct. If we can go on to the next slide, please, Steve. Thank you. Just some practicalities now. Some of you will be wanting to know when you will get access to timetables. I'm pleased to say that we will be starting to process block bookings as of 10th of December, and the timetable goes public to everybody else, or goes live rather to everybody else on the 17th, with the exception of 2 routes, Mallaig, Armadale, and the route to the Small Isles. Now, unfortunately, we'll not be able to confirm those timetables till around the 12th of January. There are very good reasons for this. It's not that we're dragging our feet, but there are complexities around understanding tides, berthing vessels. So there's a lot of operational things there that need to be ironed out. And also, we've been working very closely, which we have to, with communities on the Small Isles to ensure that we provide a service for them which is fit for purpose. So apologies that we don't have that yet, but we'll do our best to obviously process your bookings when they come through. I know it's frustrating sometimes, but as I say, we're running a lifeline service and the needs of our communities come first. For those of you that don't know, we have a dedicated team from who you can book, obviously your coach space, but also if you're interested in the food and drink offer, we can provide you details in that and process your bookings. We have a direct dedicated telephone line and email address, and we will always endeavour to get back to you within 24 hours. Just a few points worth mentioning. Many of you know this already, it's a bit of a no-brainer, but there is obviously more availability with us during the shoulder season. What is encouraging is that we are seeing this year, because there's been a lot of people who are coming to Scotland for the first time, a lot more staycations, the season has effectively extended itself de facto. And I've heard and seen that when I've been out in the islands, that there's a lot of visitors still around, even as late October, early November, which is really encouraging. So I would be cautious in this, but I think longer term, we may see a natural extension of the season and more accommodation providers and other tourism providers willing to extend the season. So that's worth bearing in mind. This has been covered off by Visit Scotland, but just to clarify a little bit more, I was asked this in advance about what the situation is on ferries. Yes, you must wear face masks on the ferries when you're in an inside area. If you're out on the deck, you don't have to. But I must stress, face masks are mandatory in many situations in Scotland. I think it's going that way in England now. So I would ask that, if you want to know the latest status, you're not sure, Scottish Government provide really, really clear guidelines, and we can send you a direct link to that if it's not in the Visit Scotland slide, so you can avail yourself of the relevant information before you set off. Also, if you're interested in developing itineraries, we can help to a certain extent. Please contact me direct in the first instance if you need any information. But we've got very good links with our local destination tourism contacts, and they're more than happy to help. And I'm pleased to say a lot of them are taking a lot more interest now in the coach sector and want to work more closely with it. So I've said that I'll help to that end to ensure that that happens. That really was a whirlwind tour. Some of you know us already. Those of you who don't, I hope that was a good introduction. We very much look forward to working with you in 2022. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride over the last couple of years, but we thank you for your ongoing support. It means a lot to us. Really look forward to welcoming so many of you back in 2022. So thank you.
Over to me now.
Yes, Pietro, I think it's your turn.
Okay. Hi, I'm Pietro Cecchini here at the Scotch Whisky Experience in Edinburgh. It's not a fake background, we're actually in the collection. So, well, it's Baltic in here because we need to protect the content of all our whisky bottles. We are surrounded by almost 3,500 of the world's rarest whiskies, some amazing bottles. I'm going to run through some slides with you about the health and safety side of things, the hygiene factors, and then I'm going to pass over to my colleague.
Hi, so I'm Julie Trevisan-Hunter, I'm Marketing Director here at Scotch Whisky Experience. Happy St Andrew's Day, it's very exciting. Yeah, that point right at the beginning, it's the beginning of our wonderful sort of winter of celebration. And for me, always feels like the perfect time to be celebrating Scotch whisky as well. When you hit St Andrew's Day and then you've got the whole festive season and then Burns, it just feels like there's lots of perfect moments for Scotch whisky. So I hope to convince you of that by the time we get to the end of it. So I'm just going to share a screen just now, and Pietro will take us through some slides that will tell you a wee bit about our building. There we go. Almost there. There we go. I'll hand over to Pietro, and then I'm going to jump in at the end and just do a little bit more chat about my passion in life, which is Scotch whisky.
So this is us. As you can see, we're only a few seconds walk from Edinburgh Castle. You can see the Esplanade there. That's where you have the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo. We've got Katie here who's going to talk about that shortly. As you can see, we're a Visit Scotland 5-star visitor attraction. We've got a gold tourism accreditation. We're also good to go. We're good to go and Safe Travels accredited. But we're delighted to say that this month we won Best Attraction UK and Ireland for 2021. It was awarded by all the customers of Tickets. You'll all be aware of Tickets, one of the world's largest online travel agents. So when you come to the Scotch Whisky Experience, we have a wealth of group-friendly tours and experiences to offer. The images that you've got in front of you just now are for our silver and gold tours. Those are our entry point experiences. So for example, our silver tour, a 50-minute experience comes in at £19 per person. That's adult rate, but we offer concessions and obviously trade discounts on that. And the gold tour that I'll talk about in a second is a £32 per person. It's a 5 whisky experience. And again, there are discount rates for concessions and the trade. Now, we were set up about 33 years ago by the whisky industry to showcase whisky to the world, because when you come to Scotland, there are 5 whisky producing regions, and in each region the whiskies, the aromas, the characteristics, the flavors, they're totally different. So we're like a mini Visit Scotland. We showcase whisky to the world, to all 5 regions. And then what people do, groups that come to us first, and then they go out to a distillery, because when you go to a distillery, you only learn about their whisky and their production processes. So we provide that breadth and grounding, so that when you go there, your experiences are even more fruitful. So when you come to us, one of the part of the experience is we have 180-degree cinema, and we fly you across Scotland to each of the regions. We've got a live guide, but we have it in 20 languages as well. So we fly you across Scotland, you see the different regions, we talk about the whiskies and the characteristics, and then we provide one of these. It's a scratch and sniff card, absolutely amazing. So let's say we're flying you through Speyside, you're hearing, you're seeing, and then the guide will say, check out the Speyside flavour. You don't lick it, you smell it, and wow, it hits you with all the aromas of the floral notes of Speyside whiskies. And then as we head up to the islands, to Islay, there the whiskies are peaty and smoky and rich. You hit it, and my goodness, I had a lady that came in once and said, oh, love the whiskies, not sure about the Islas, it's a bit strong for me. It was like kissing my husband, who was a smoker, hence the peatiness. But I liken the Islay whiskies to driving a car. It's 5th gear, so you work up to it. So after we've hit all the senses, we take you into our blender's sample room, where you can see the top right corner, and that's where you decide which whisky you want to select. Now, in the silver tour, there's a soft drink option because it's family friendly. There you pick up the whisky, we talk about it, we bring you into this room, into the collection, and that's where you learn to nose it, read the flavours, etc. Ask questions, take photographs. And you're in this room for a few minutes, and then from there, we take you out into our private McIntyre's bar. And in the McIntyre's bar, that's where we offer those who have upgraded to a gold tour a whisky stave with 4 additional whiskies. And there you've got views over Edinburgh to the Pentland Hills to the south of Edinburgh. And guests can relax to their heart's content, enjoying those 4 drams. Our whisky experts will introduce the whiskies to them, have tasting notes, and then leave you to this chat amongst yourselves. I should say that as part of the experience, the crystal glass that you get during your tasting, we box that up, and that's a souvenir that guests take home with them as a memory of their visit with us. So parking, really important. Just for those that know Edinburgh Castle and visit Edinburgh Castle, just behind us on Johnston Terrace, there's ample coach parking. This is the back of the building. You can see the castle in the background, and it's only a few seconds walk from our main door. Now, we are fully accessible. We've got lift access throughout the building. I've mentioned that we do audio guides in 20 languages, including British Sign Language. And if people have got guests or friends over from the States, we do it in American Sign Language as well. And wow, we have an award-winning restaurant, amazing food. We specialize in food pairings, etc. But what you have here is this a sample of the building. We do group lunches, 2 courses for 2022 from £16.50 per person, and 3 courses from £18.50 per person. And we have a whisky bar and whisky gift shop with over 500 different whiskies. We have 6 private rooms. We opened up additional spaces post-COVID because we wanted to be able to provide that additional security and peace of mind to our clients. So we use these rooms for group lunches and group dinners as well. Capacities go from 10 up to 80 people. And let's come off the share. Now, in terms of the travel trade side of things, we do have trade rates. We have flexible cancellation procedures of up to 24 hours prior to client arrival without penalty. We do post-visit invoicing, and we look after you. We have a dedicated, as Andrew was saying earlier, CalMac has a dedicated travel trade team. We also have a dedicated team for bookings, inquiries, etc., that look after you. But you'll have my contact details, so I'll be your key account manager, basically developing bespoke experiences for you and answering all your day-to-day questions. Now I'll pass you over for the last minute or two to Julie.
Hey, the Scotch Whisky stuff. So as I mentioned, I'm a marketing director here, and I've worked here at Scotch Whisky Experience for 25 years. So this year was my 25th anniversary, working in lots of different departments, but also working with lots of the Scotch whisky distillers as well. Like the collection behind me here, the whole of the Scotch Whisky Experience here in Edinburgh represents the whole world of Scotch whisky. And what better way of engaging with the Year of Stories next year than telling the stories of Scotch. One of the things I love most is seeing people's face when they walk into this collection, and the screen doesn't no justice at all. It really is breathtaking. But by the end of people's visit here, almost everybody has found an aspect of Scotch whisky that has really engaged them. So in fact, the vast majority of our visitors are not already whisky fans and enthusiasts. They're people that are doing a bit of Scotch whisky because obviously it has to be done on a trip to Scotland. And by the end of their visit, some aspect of Scotch, which could be the flavour and the character of the whisky, but more often than not is the stories behind Scotland and Scotch and her distilleries that really find something that resonates with people. So from doing the beautiful flyover and showing people the views of the Lowlands, the Highlands, Speyside, Island, Campbelltown, our 5 regions, to talking about the stories of the people and the culture behind it and sharing all of these things, people more often than not find an aspect of it that really fascinates them and engages them with Scotch whisky. We've also been working lots in the world of responsible tourism, as have the distilleries. So a beautiful new whisky was created just for COP26. And if there's one thing that both the Scotch whisky industry and indeed the tourism industry are incredibly good at, it's working together. The Scotch whisky distillers all came together. 26 different distilleries contributed whisky that went into creating a blended Scotch whisky that was put together for COP26. The bottle was fully recycled. The label was made from residues from the barley, created a sort of kind of paper from the barley residue from the process. The carton was fully recycled. Even the stopper, which is normally cork and wood, was actually fully made from recycled corks, and so the whole thing could be recycled. So a beautiful bottling that's now part of the whisky collection here that we can tell people about. And to support that, we've created a fantastic new tour, which is our gold tour, or indeed a tutored whisky tasting or tasting tales for individuals or for groups, that tells the stories of sustainable Scotch. So some of the brilliant stories of some of the land roundabout distilleries that's being used to support European protected species, how salmon populations are being supported by the distilleries, who obviously share their water sources and the springs that run into the rivers, especially the Spey, with the salmon populations, the coastlines for our coastal distilleries. So lots and lots of fabulous stories about how Scotch whisky is changing to become more responsible and more connected with the environment around about it. So we hope that when visitors come here, they stop off in Edinburgh, they pick up this fascination for Scotch whisky, and they then head off to the distilleries with a wonderful base knowledge so they can enjoy that trip to that unique and individual distillery even more. Or indeed decide that they haven't had long enough in Scotland and they're going to plan another visit to take in more of the distilleries as they travel around it. So we will be sending a wee goodie bag out to you together with CalMac and Visit Scotland post-visit, which will have a couple of wee whisky miniatures in it. We've put together a wee bit of information that will help you find out a bit about those whiskies and how to nose and taste them, and some links to some of our YouTube content that takes people through all the details of Scotch whisky. So I hope you will enjoy these and get back in touch with us if you have any questions, obviously about visiting, but indeed also about Scotch whisky. So I will hand over now to Katie, who's going to take you through the tattoo.
Signal a wee bit here. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Katie.
Good, good. I kind of lost the end of Julie's chat there, so I'll crack on if that's okay. So I kind of lost signal just for a few seconds there. Just show the presentation just now. Everything's going very slow today. I do apologise.
No worries. I keep thinking it's Monday because Visit Scotland's holiday. We moved our St Andrew's Day holiday to yesterday, so I'm still in Monday mode. So is Zoom.
Okay, we've got there eventually. So yeah, I'm Katie Lynn. I'm the box office manager at the Tattoo. So I'll just give you a quick sort of review of us to the background of the Tattoo and some general history, and then talk about the next year's Tattoo and what where our comeback is likely to look like. Obviously, having had 2 years of cancelled performances, we're all very excited to be back on the Esplanade in 2022. So yeah, all ready to go. We go on sale for tickets tomorrow. So we're all really excited for our launch.
Just to let you know, that person who was talking to the other day.
The word tattoo comes from it's a Dutch term, and it's tap-toe, which basically is a drum beat for turning off the tap. So it was a way of getting soldiers who had been out in the local pubs and inns. They would set a soldier down and they would do the drum beat, which is tap-two, which basically means turn off the taps. And that would be enough of a signal to get the soldiers back out of the pubs or inns and back up to their barracks again. The tattoo was started in 1950, and it was originated as the Army in Scotland's contribution to the Edinburgh festivals. It's a bit of a boost to spirits in the post-war years. We got a royal title in 2010, having previously just been the Edinburgh Military Tattoo before that. And see the so next year's the 5th to 27th of August. Performances are Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. and Saturdays are 6:15 and 9:30 p.m. Brought the late Saturday show forward, which we hope will then open that up, because the feedback we've had in the past is the previous 10:30 show was quite late for travel trade, so hoping that opens up a bit, an extra performance for those that are able to attend the 9:30 show. And because we've not had a show for 2 years, the last Fridays we're having a bit of a finale weekend extravaganza, and the last Friday we'll have the 2 performances at 6:15 and 9:30. Every show is the same, with the exception of the Fridays and late Saturdays having a slightly enhanced fireworks. Weather permitting, there should be fireworks at every performance, which will last approximately 90 minutes. We will just follow Scottish Government COVID-19 guidelines at the time, so obviously we're unable to commit to anything until we're at the time and see where things actually stand. So our theme for next year is Voices, and it's a celebration of connections, cultures and languages, bringing us all together on the unique setting of the Edinburgh Castle Esplanade. The Army is our lead service. And we'll have some of the usual acts: mass pipes and drums, lone piper, tattoo dancers and Shetland fiddlers, along with a mix of other military and civilian acts from across the world. Tickets go on sale tomorrow. Now, the prices will range from 30 to 95. The details we've got shown here are just for ad hoc bookings, but we do have a facility for travel trade to book tickets with us, whereby if you send an order by email, we can offer sale or return on any orders submitted by email up until the 31st of December. The orders will be considered on a sale or return basis, and you then have until the end of March to confirm your final numbers and get a full refund for any tickets you don't need. Thereafter, there'll be a small fee for reselling. For those that have booked with us before, you'll see there's obviously a different pricing structure. We've streamlined the prices just to make it a little bit easier for everyone to work with, and sort of losing some of the bandings that we've had previously, but we hope that will make it much easier going forward. For accessibility to the show, obviously there is no parking on the Castle Esplanade or nearby, as Pietro mentioned, obviously just being close to us on Castle Hill. We do designate streets within Edinburgh for coach parking, and we're still to have the details of that confirmed, but we aim for all the streets that we are able to have parking on to be within a 15 to 20-minute walk from the castle at the very most. For those that obviously then that can't make the walk from the coach parking areas to the Esplanade, if there is clients that have a disability or unable to make the walk, then we do have a convoy which takes customers from a set meeting point close by the castle up onto the Esplanade, and it means they can be dropped off, and then you can arrange pick-up thereafter once the show has finished, and then they can then go back to the coach parking area. One thing that's good about having the coaches parked up is your guests or clients will leave the coach, and then they know exactly where to go back to get back on the coach after the show. Within the arena itself, we have disabled seating in the form of wheelchair spaces, and we also have accessible seating, which is only 5 steps from the ground level. We have an audio described performance for those that are visually impaired, and we also have the use of neck loop induction coils for those that are hard of hearing and have a hearing aid. So we obviously are trying to make the tattoo as accessible as possible. That's all I had for just now. So if anyone has any questions, then please feel free to email me directly or email us on the box office email address. We just all queries come into the same mailbox, and then obviously we'll get back to you as soon as possible. The presentation will also include a copy of the 2022 tattoo literature, so please feel free to ask any questions from that. There is an order form in there, so we're still accepting orders. There is an advertised cut-off date in the brochure for orders, but we're still happy to accept orders for consideration at this stage. Thank you.
Yay, I'm glad we got you in, Katie. It worked in the end, technology. So thank you very much to Katie, Pietro, Julie at the Scotch Whisky Experience, Andrew at CalMac as well, and also to the CTA, Robert, Helen, Sue and Steve for hosting this event. I'll pass back to Robert, I guess, just then we'll maybe open the floor up for 5-10 minutes of any questions that anyone might have. I should say as well, so to all our attendees that have signed up today, as mentioned, the Scotch Whisky Experiences kindly will be sending out a couple of thank yous. We'll send out a little thank you gift package to everyone as well. But no, this has been really, really good. So yeah, I'll just hand back. I don't know if Robert or Helen, if you have anything else to add.
I know I enjoyed that. I hope everybody else did. I've certainly learned quite a lot. I mean, as I say, we've been featuring tours to the tattoo for so long, but it's good to have it all explained to us. And the Scotch Whisky Experience, wow, I think everybody wants to include that on their itineraries now. But does anybody have any kind of questions or queries that they want to ask while the people are online? Come on, don't be shy. There must be somebody out there who's got a query from those presentations.
Am I right asking just one question?
Okay.
Yeah, Craig, you mentioned in your opening talk that visits to the Scottish Islands were encouraged to have LFTs. Does that mean, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean just to test to see if you test positive or negative, or will there be checks made, or?
So it's not legislation. It is strong advice, basically. So they're asking you to take 2 tests, one 3 days before and then one on the day of. Obviously, if you test positive, then you should follow self-isolation rules. It isn't law though, so it is very strong guidance, to put it that way. And again, with everything at the moment, that may change. Obviously, we were in a situation where there hadn't been too many changes recently, but who knows over the next few weeks and months. So we would always just, there's some links in there, follow the Scottish Government advice, and we also have our own pages as well. So just check them on a regular basis before any tours and stuff like that. But no, in terms of the islands, I don't believe it's legislation or anything like that, but it's strong advice.
It was basically, it was advised, it was really to protect the island communities, because some months ago their levels of infection had been low, and there was understandable concern amongst local communities with people coming into the communities about the risk of infection. So that's where it originated. Without wanting to preempt anything, I imagine it may well be revised in due course. So it's not mandatory, it's advised. And it's really, I think it's part of a broader question, actually, which I think is important for us all to remember, about promoting responsible tourism in rural areas in Scotland, because I would not say that the coach sector is by any means being guilty of this, that a lot of individual travellers sadly haven't really done themselves many favours by leaving rubbish and worse around in duty spots, camping in places where they're not supposed to. So we've all been doing quite a lot of work to get positive messages out to remind visitors to act responsibly on every level.
Okay, just can I come in there? Just a quick question for Andrew. Can you tell us what the minimum size for a group now is, and how many places you're allocating when you book a group?
The minimum number, I believe, is 10, but I can double check that. There's no upper limit now, just to be very clear. Okay. So there's no problem with that. One thing, however, we have been noticing, which is interesting and good to get some feedback, that overall, we noticed that the total number of people in groups is smaller than previously in many cases. Is that a trend that you, as coach operators, you're tending to have smaller tours, or is it just a little bit of an aberration that we see?
Generally, I think part of that perhaps was the fact that we were limited with the number of passengers that we could put onto a coach for a period of time. Like most things, though, it was quite unclear whether there was any legal restriction on it, but it was a health and safety matter, and based on a duty of care that we owed to our staff and drivers, really. So I think that was probably the case until perhaps the end of July, sort of August time. But after that, I think you could load a coach to full capacity. So I think it was more to do with that than anything else, really.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
Good. All right. Thanks. Does anybody else have any more questions at all on anything? Well, we're all sat around and we've got time to take them. Perhaps I can ask another one then. Perhaps for Katie Edinburgh to 2. Great presentation. Thanks for that. I know in the past you've been really, really helpful with flexibility on ticket sales. And I noticed that now that period is that we can release tickets without charge has been extended to the 31st of March. Do you think that will change, bearing in mind the current changes in restrictions and the fact that we're a bit uncertain still about whether things might happen in the summer?
Yeah, we've gone out with 31st of March as an kind of initial sort of like to allow us to assess how the travel trade are selling. There is scope for that being amended, but I think we all need just to work towards the March deadline, and then obviously if we're able to extend that, we would give you notice of that. We would still, as I said, accept tickets back after March, but there would be a small fee for any resales, but we would like to be able to get to the stage that if we could extend it, we will do what we can to. It just gives you more flexibility as well. And I know we used to have it that it was a wee bit later in the year, but what that did give us was 6 weeks to sell quite a lot of tickets. Thankfully, the demand was there, but we need to just sort of dip our toe in the water for 2022 and see how it goes. But yeah, we would keep you updated, absolutely.
Thanks for that. That's really useful, actually. And just a question really for Craig. I'm fascinated by this Year of Stories theme. Are you going to be doing any TV advertising or any social media advertising that's going to help us to piggyback on that effectively?
That is a good question that I don't have a definite answer. I mean, yes, we will. There will be a lot of marketing that goes into TV advertising. I can't say for certain, but I'm sure we will have a lot of paid advertising. There'll be a lot of coverage of it on our social channels as well, which, you know, and we're more than happy to share. If there is any like YouTube videos and stuff, you can easily embed some of these videos on your own channels as well and stuff like that. So I'm not entirely sure what the grand marketing plan is in terms of where that will be, but it will be across all our social channels, absolutely.
Okay, that's good to know, because I think it's important. I mean, most coach operators have already produced or published brochures, but we're constantly updating websites. So it'd be great for us able to make use of the material that you've got really for that. Yeah,
and we have a toolkit as well, which I think is in the presentation as well, and also our DML, as we call it, so the digital media library, which all you need to do is just sign up. It's very simple to sign up, just with an email address and register if you haven't already. Gives you access to all sorts of imagery, video content as well that you can use as well.
Okay, and just a quick question for Pietro and Julie. I mean, with a Scotch whisky experience, is it necessary to pre-book? Are there dates where it gets full?
Yes, because look, admissions by timed entry and guided tour. So look, we're adapting to the environment as it stands, and when you're turning up potentially with 50 people in a group, the chances of getting them in that day are going to be extremely limited. So how we work with a lot of partners is we encourage them to obviously put us into their itineraries. So we've got you pre-booked, but we know that you need to have an element of flexibility, hence the dedicated travel trade team, so that if you're in the city or a day out and you're looking to fill a gap in your schedule, you can contact us, and what they'll do is check real-time availability and come up with the best solution for you. Obviously, the longer lead-in time you give us, the greater opportunity there is for us to schedule you in. However, we do offer a wealth of experiences. So while going into the collection is in great demand, it might be that we can offer you a lunch a dinner in one of the private rooms, for example, or a more bespoke tour that takes you into one of our private rooms, for example, like a tasting, a tutored tasting, or a paired lunch and dinner. So we've got opportunities. We're like the TARDIS, Doctor Who's TARDIS. We've got lots of different spaces. So the key is to have that dialogue with us, and more often than not, we'll find a solution. Nightmare scenario is obviously the tutu time, because we work very closely with the tutu, and that has a different set of implications for us. But out with that, it's I'm sure we'll find solutions. And I should say we're open 364 days of the year, so it's only Christmas Day that we're closed. So in terms of what Andrew was saying about the spread of the season, our doors are very much open. And in terms of planning, even for 2023, for example, our 2023 rates will be launched for, Craig will correct me, Discover Scotland, Reconnect 2022, or Expo. We'll have our 2023 rates for April next year. So we're always planning a good 9 months ahead, doing everything we can to accommodate and be as open as possible.
Okay, and just from a practical point of view, when you book a good, you automatically get a coach parking space included?
No. If only. There is parking, as Katie said, out with the tutu time, but there is parking on Johnston Terrace.
Right.
And yeah, it can be, depending, like if you're coming in July and August, it can be a bit of a jigsaw puzzle to get there. But at the moment, there's plenty of availability there.
That's okay. Thanks for all that, and thanks everybody for answering those questions candidly. Has anybody on the call got any more questions for anybody? No, I don't think so. We're just about rapidly coming to the end, so it's probably time to wrap up. Can I just say a big thanks to everybody, including Steve, Sue and Helen, the sponsors CalMac, the Edinburgh Tattoo, the Scotch Whisky Experience, and of course Visit Scotland. It has been a fascinating sort of hour listening to events in Scotland, listening to what we can do, where we can take our passengers, etc., etc. And I'm sure based on this, it's given us renewed enthusiasm for bringing even more people north of the border next year. So thanks again. And I'd just like at this point to say a big happy Christmas and a healthy new year to all CTA members and to everybody involved in our organisation. Onwards and upwards. Thank you very much.